everyone, welcome back to another episode of Spectator Sports. This is Sebastian Fonseca, and today we're going to be previewing the FIFA World Cup. Before we get into it, please like and subscribe to the page, and also follow our TikTok and Instagram pages, as we're going to be including a lot of content from the FIFA World Cup and other sports around the world. So usually the FIFA World Cup is played during the summer months like June through July, but with the host nation being Qatar, it's really hot, especially in those summer months, so they're moving it to November through mid-December this year. And it's going to be interesting to see how all these teams adapt to a desert-like climate with the heat being involved, but a lot of these games are going to be played in the evening, obviously, to accommodate that. The FIFA World Cup is divided into 8 groups, and to start, I wanted to talk about Group A, which features host nation Qatar, Ecuador, Senegal, and the Netherlands. Host nation Qatar is led by Akram Afif, as he's one of the best players in Asia, and he's poised to lead Qatar into very competitive play this World Cup. Ecuador is making their first appearance in the World Cup since 2014, and they're led by Brighton star Moises Caicedo, and he's your typical box-to-box midfielder. He's known for making really smart plays and being a very effective passer. He's been really integral to Brighton's early season success this year as they look to remain competitive in the top 4 of the Premier League. Also be on the lookout for winger Angel Mena of Mexican club León. He's been really underrated in the Mexican league, and look for him to create good goal scoring opportunities in this World Cup. Just like Ecuador, the Netherlands are also returning to the World Cup after an 8-year absence, led by their star defender Virgil van Dijk of Liverpool, Memphis Depay of Barcelona, and Frankie de Jong also of Barcelona. They have a really talented squad, and they definitely look poised to make the knockout stages this year. Manager Louis van Gaal typically is run a 4-3-3, but this year they're going to be moving on to a 5-3-2. So be on the lookout to see how that new formation is a tactical advantage for this Dutch team. And finally, arguably the best team in Africa, Senegal makes its return to the World Cup after a pretty decent campaign in 2018. Their best player, Sadio Mane, picked up a leg injury while in club play for his team Bayern Munich. So he's going to be on the active roster, but I'm not sure how his effectiveness is going to be and how many minutes he's going to actually be playing in this World Cup. They still have other good players like Edouard Mendy and Koulibaly of Chelsea to rely on in this World Cup campaign. The way I see Group A playing out, if Senegal had Sadio Mane at full strength, I think they would win this group, but I'm going to go with the Dutch winning this group, followed by Senegal, Ecuador, and then host nation Qatar finishing 4th. So transitioning to Group B, England is coming off a World Cup semifinal appearance and also finishing as runners-up in Euro 2020. They have a lot of talent on this team as they feature players like Jude Bellingham, Harry Kane, Raheem Sterling, Mason Mount, Declan Rice. Just totally loaded, but the backline definitely is going to be a little bit in question as players like Reece James and Ben Chilwell are going to be missing this World Cup due to injury. But they still have John Stones in there, so that's going to be really good, and also Jordan Pickford is a very solid goalkeeper. Iran is making their 3rd consecutive World Cup appearance, and their best player is Mehdi Taremi of Porto. He's been a really solid player for the Portuguese side, and it'll definitely be a tough out in this competitive Group B. Team USA makes its return to the World Cup after an embarrassing flameout back in 2017's qualifying stages. They're led by a new wave of young talent with Christian Pulisic, Weston McKennie, Serginho Dest, and Tyler Adams, to name a few players. They definitely don't have the same amount of firepower that England tout, but I definitely see them making the knockout stages and finishing 2nd in this group. And finally, Wales, who's making an appearance in the World Cup since 1958. Their best player, Gareth Bale, used to be Real Madrid's super sub off the bench, but now he plays for LAFC. I remember back in 2016 as he carried Wales to the Euro semifinals in that tournament. So look for them to be a very competitive out in this World Cup. The way I see Group B finishing out, I see England finishing atop, Team USA finishing in second, just beating out Wales in third and then Iran in fourth. Argentina is led by Lionel Messi, who's been one of their superstar players in recent memory and probably one of the best players of all time, as he's only missing a World Cup trophy in his decorated career. As he continues to age, his explosiveness and speed has definitely gone down, but still a very effective player for PSG. This time he has a lot of help as there's a youth movement in the Argentinian side led by Christian Romero of Tottenham, as he's going to help an Argentinian backline that has been old and slow in recent years. Look for also Angel Di Maria, as he's probably making his last World Cup appearance as well, and he'll be an effective winger for the Argentinian side. Saudi Arabia makes a short trip to Qatar, making their second consecutive World Cup appearance. They have a trio of effective goal scorers known as Selam Al-Diswari, Salam Al-Shahiri, and Frias Al-Baraikan, and look to them to be a very competitive out in this World Cup. El Tri returns to the World Cup, and they're coming in with not in the best of forms, as they lost a couple of cup titles to the US in 2021. They look to advance past the round of 16 for the first time since 1994, as they're led by star players like Chucky Lozano and Alexis Vega. But don't forget about Edson Alvarez, who's become one hell of a defensive midfielder. Poland is led by Robert Lewandowski, a goal-scoring machine for Barcelona. And they have a lot of help this time, as Karol Swiderski has also been an effective goal scorer, scoring 5 goals in 9 qualifying matches. The way I see this group shaking out is Argentina finishing first. My bold prediction is Poland knocks out Mexico and advances to the knockout stages, and Saudi Arabia finishing fourth. Defending champions France headlined Group D, but they're going to be featuring a couple new faces, as Pogba and Kanté are out due to injury. Their wingers are ridiculously elite this year, featuring Benzema, Mbappe, Giroud, Griezmann, even Kingsley Coman and Dembele are going to be ridiculous to defend. To make up for Kanté and Pogba, they're going to be relying on Camavinga and Rabiot. Defensively is also an elite set of defenders featuring several center backs. They have the Hernandez brothers, Kanate, Koundé, Varane, Pavard, just to name a few. So look for this France side to figure out how all these pieces align as they try to defend their World Cup. Now, this Denmark side has been flying under the radar, as they actually beat France a couple times in 2022. They're led by Christian Eriksen, as many soccer fans know, underwent cardiac arrest live on the field during Euro 2020. He's made a miraculous return to football, and it's been quite a scene to watch, as he's been part of a very effective United squad. Now, they also have players like Thomas Delaney, who's been a really good midfielder for this team, and look for them to really compete with the French squad. Australia has made the World Cup, as they needed a couple of playoff victories to qualify. I don't see this team making a deep run, as the aforementioned European juggernauts are going to be probably occupying the top 2 slots. Same thing goes for Tunisia. They're also very competitive. They've beaten Chile and Japan in friendlies this year, but like I said before, I don't see them making a deep run, as this group is probably a 2-team race. The way I see this group finishing out is I have the French in first, Denmark in... I like Denmark in this group, but I just can't make that leap to pick them to win this group. So I have France in 1, Denmark in 2, Tunisia in 3, and then Australia finishing last. Germany returns to the World Cup after a disappointing 2018 campaign. They came into that tournament as defending champions, but were knocked out in group play. This year they have a little bit of a youth movement with Kai Havertz and Gnabry at the helm, but they'll be missing Timo Werner, who's been an effective winger for them in the past. The midfield features Gundogan of Manchester City, who'll be a really effective box-to-box midfielder in this World Cup. And their defense is anchored by Antonio Rudiger of Real Madrid. So they really create a lot of good goal scoring opportunities, so look for them to make a deep run in this World Cup. Now transitioning to Spain, who's making a return to the World Cup as they're coming off a disappointing finish in Euro 2020. As recently, they've not been in the best of forms, really struggling to create good quality goal scoring opportunities. Their attackers, Alvaro Morata, has been up and down, mostly been ineffective in clutch situations in goal scoring opportunities, so I'm not sure how deep a run they'll make in this World Cup. In this group, I see Germany finishing atop the group, but then dark horse Japan finishing second, Spain missing out on the knockout stages, followed by Costa Rica in fourth. Now moving on to Group F, Belgium is their headliner as they're trying to cash in on a golden generation of talent with Kevin De Bruyne, Eden Hazard, Romelu Lukaku, and goalkeeper Thibaut Courtois. This team is coming off a semi-final appearance back in 2018, just missing out on the World Cup final, losing to eventual champions France. There definitely should be a favorite team in this World Cup. They're so talented at all three phases of the roster, and I definitely see them making a deep run in this World Cup. But don't count out Croatia, who finished as runners-up in the 2018 World Cup. They don't have a prolific striker in this year's edition, but still look for Luka Modric as an effective midfielder and maestro of the entire offense for Croatia. Morocco returns to the World Cup featuring Hakim Ziyech, who was exiled off the team for more than a year, so look for him to return to the lineup and be an effective goal scorer for this Moroccan side. And finally, CONCACAF winners Canada makes its second ever appearance in the World Cup. They're led by Alphonso Davies, one of the fastest players you'll ever see for Bayern Munich. They definitely are a dark horse to make the knockout stages, but I just don't see them advancing past Croatia or Belgium. So the way I see this group shaking out, I have Belgium finishing first, Croatia second, Canada a very close third, and then Morocco in fourth. Group G is definitely looking like the group of death in this World Cup, as they're headlined by Brazil, who's always looking poised to make a deep run in the World Cup. Don't count out Cameroon, as they finished third in the African League of Nations Cup. They're definitely an elite group, creating goal opportunities in 1 in every 3 shots on target, as they're led by Victor Abukar. Switzerland is also in this group, and they feature a very elite defensive unit, only allowing 2 goals in qualifying. In Euro 2020, they also got by France in the knockout stages, so look for them to be a dark horse in this World Cup. Serbia has been an undefeated group in qualifying, as they also beat Portugal head-to-head in their qualifying stages. And in this group of death, as much as I want to have these dark horses advance, there can only be 2. I have Brazil finishing first, followed by Switzerland, then Serbia and Cameroon in fourth. Group H features a loaded Portuguese side, and this is led by Cristiano Ronaldo, probably making his final appearance in the World Cup. He has a lot of help on this Portuguese side, as they have Ruben Dias, João Cancelo, João Felix, Bruno Fernandes, and Bernardo Silva in a very talented squad, and I see them probably finishing atop this group. Ghana makes a return to the World Cup, as they're making an appearance after a brief absence back in 2018. They have an interesting roster featuring some players that are not really well known, but they always put up a really tough fight when they make the World Cup. Uruguay also is making their return to the World Cup, as they're led by Luis Suarez, who's known for a history of biting and red card incidences, so we'll look to see how this World Cup campaign shakes out for Uruguay. And finally, South Korea is a very talented team as well, led by their Tottenham superstar Son. He's coming into this World Cup campaign probably needing to wear a mask, as he suffered an orbital fracture injury. He's going to be hampered, but look to him to be probably the leading goal scorer for this South Korean side. The way I see this group shaking out, I have Portugal in 1, South Korea 2, followed by Ghana in 3 and Uruguay in 4th. So what I wanted to do now is break down the knockout stages as based on the standings I had in each group. To start, I have the Netherlands taking on the United States. I had the Netherlands moving on to the quarterfinals, followed by Argentina taking on Denmark. I have Argentina moving on to the quarterfinals. Next, I have Germany taking on Croatia, with the Croatians moving forward. And that will set up a matchup with Brazil as they beat South Korea. Now on the other side of the bracket, I have England playing Senegal, with England moving on to the quarterfinals. And that will set up a really nice quarterfinal matchup if France beats Poland, is how I see it. I have Belgium facing Japan, and this is actually a rematch back in 2018. I see Belgium moving forward to the quarterfinals as the same outcome as before, and this will set up a quarterfinal matchup with Portugal as they'll beat Switzerland. In the quarterfinals, we have France beating England and Belgium beating Portugal. I have Argentina beating the Netherlands and Brazil beating Croatia to move on to the semifinals. In the quarterfinals, I really like the Dutch, but I see them losing to Argentina, and then this could set up a really interesting semifinal with Brazil beating Croatia. On the other side of the bracket, I have Belgium getting by Portugal and France beating England, and this could be a really interesting semifinal as this is a rematch of the previous World Cup semifinal between Belgium and France, and this time I see Belgium finally breaking through to the final and beating France. On the other side, I have Argentina beating Brazil in a very close matchup and moving on to the final, and we have the golden generation of Belgium taking on Lionel Messi's Argentina, in which would be a really epic World Cup, and I have Argentina lifting the World Cup trophy and sending off Lionel Messi into the sunset as this is the final trophy that he needs. But that's how I see this World Cup playing out. It's going to be really interesting to see. It's just such a rare event. I mean, there's just going to be so many new storylines with up and coming teams, new players taking spotlight on the world's biggest stage. So please comment with your predictions and how the World Cup will shake out. And until next time, this is Sebastian Fonseca with Spectator Sports. Take care and stay safe.